Welcome to Beyond the Microphone, a podcast about podcasters and the stories of how their shows came together, grew, and what they've discovered along the way. I'm your host, Adam Baruh. So before we get into our interview with our guest today, I want to talk about AI tools, and, it's all the rage, and, I went to PodFest back, which is like a podcasting trade show back, I think it was like in January of this year, and it was, all the buzz. Everything was, Chat GPT and how AI is going to, become very much a part of what we do as podcasters. And, before that trade show, I didn't really know a whole lot about it. I mean, I had heard of Chat GPT, but I never really knew what it was, to be honest. Like the first time somebody showed me, I was like, okay, wow, this is going to be, in the next 5 years. I mean, talk about like when the internet first came out or cell phones. I mean, one of those like hugely game-changing shifts, even, as a society. I mean, because like, it's starting to become part of a lot of different industries. And so, for podcasting in particular, I use some tools, and it has absolutely saved so much of my time. So for example, the tool that I use, it will generate show notes, podcast description, title. It'll even recommend quotes or like hooks to use, in marketing, short form video and that sort of thing. It'll write a LinkedIn post, an Instagram post, all of that for me. And, while I'm not just going to take verbatim, like what it generates and immediately publish it. I mean, I have, because sometimes that actually it doesn't really require, a lot of changes. But, for the most part, I mean, in particular show notes, like it does a really good job of, summarizing the key points, writing the basic description, kind of outlining the chapters. Even if you have in your transcripts, like the timestamps, it'll create the chapters with timestamps. You can copy and paste that into Buzzsprout or YouTube or wherever you're publishing. And, you don't have to like spend time thinking about that stuff. So for me as a production company, one of the things that we used to do before we started using AI is ask my hosts, okay, go through, come back to me with what you want for a title for your show notes. And it's not only time consuming for me, it's time consuming for everybody. And so when we started using these AI tools, and I went to my host and I said, hey, we've got this tool now, like, would you like to see what this does? And would you like to use it? And she was like, this is going to save me time. Yeah. So check out, there's lots of different tools out there. Buzzsprout has Co-Host AI, Podtask. I mean, there's a number of them, and they're growing, all the time. You see like even Riverside that we're recording on, it's got transcription in there. So check it out. Check out how you can save time with these AI tools, because really that's what it's all about. We want you guys to avoid pod fade, burnout, and really focus your time on the best strategic uses of your time so that you can continue to feed that fire, with the passion and purpose, which is what got you into podcasting. So let's introduce our guest today. His name is Adam Baruh. He's a serial entrepreneur, podcast host, experienced producer and publisher, and public speaker. He has an extensive background in starting and managing his own businesses. He's a single parent while in the military and investing his time and money in other businesses and networking. So Adam, welcome to Beyond the Microphone. There's a lot of like alignment with what you're doing and what I'm doing. Yeah. Not only the fact that we have the same name and our last name begins with the same letter. In fact, when I was writing up the production notes here, I kept like my fingers just kept wanting to write Adam Baruh. It was like, no, Adam Bird. I had to like go back and change a couple of those. But welcome to Beyond the Microphone. I'm so happy that you're here today.
Well, I appreciate the being on here. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So, I mean, let's start with the Heroes Media Group, and, however far back you want to go, talking about even like, what inspired you to create that production company and what you're doing with it. Because here, one of the main things we do here on Beyond the Microphone is get into the stories of how podcasters, came into this industry, because I love those stories, and everybody seems to have a story. So tell us your story, Adam.
Well, I got into this business back in probably 2011, end of 2011, 2012, and it was by complete accident. I cut my teeth in terrestrial radio. Is how it started in Scottsdale, Arizona at the time, and I was a guest on a Vietnam veteran had a show and was talking about education and kind of caught the bug. I was like, man, that was a lot of fun. He asked me to come back a couple weeks later. A couple weeks later, I went back, and then it was every other week, and then it was every week, and then finally a buddy of mine, him and I decided, hey, let's do this, but let's do it online. So, two Army vets, we can say whatever we want and not get censored for it, because
Yep.
Shockingly enough, like our vocabulary was full of 4-letter words that you can't say on regular radio. So it was just kind of
Right.
like, let's do that. We're going to be entertaining. And that's how it started. So we started, I don't know if it was the very first, but we were one of the very first, if not the first, all veteran podcast network that we had started in 2012. And that was kind of early on in 2012.
Yeah.
And we ran that till summer of 2015. And then we just had different ideas and different directions that we wanted to go. So we agreed to shut that business down. The next day I filed paperwork for what is now known as Heroes Media Group, and brought some shows over to that platform. And it really just started off as just teaching people to podcast. I had a show that was successful during the first, business venture. And then I started another show that I currently have called The Decision Hour. That's one of the shows that I host, and people just kept asking me, and I was like, okay, I'll just do this. And then they were like, hey, can you edit this stuff for me? And I was like, I guess I'll learn how. So I just kind of like, endless nights of watching YouTube videos and going to conferences. You mentioned Podfest. Eventually I went to that in 2020, spoke at that at a breakout session.
Okay.
And it just kind of grew from there. And then from there, we were helping people create their podcasts, monetize their podcasts, and then I created a directory. So we started hosting. We have a hosting option now as well. So we offer anything full range. That if it has to do with a podcast, we can help you with it. And then I'd say 2016, 2017, I had a friend of mine approach me and says, hey, I want to create an audiobook. So that started our publishing department. So now we do full production and audiobooks and stuff as well. And then it's just been growing ever since.
Okay. And so is there a particular focus that you have as a production company, or is the focus maybe just kind of working with veterans, or what's the cohesive glue that kind of ties this together?
It's people that support community heroes. So our thing is community heroes, right? Be a community hero, and anybody can be a hero, right? Let's be clear on that. But our definition as community hero is you have your veterans, your military, firefighters, first responders, educators, and then there's a clergy piece in it as well. And you don't have to be one of those, or you don't have to have worked in one of those fields. We just ask that you support those community heroes, or what we call community heroes. And it's just kind of grown from that.
Hey there, fellow podcasters. This is Tori Barker of the Creative Visionaries podcast, and I'm excited to introduce you to Podtask, the all-in-one platform designed to streamline your workflow and take your show to the next level. If you're tired of feeling overwhelmed by the tasks required to manage your podcast, then check out Podtask, where you can easily streamline your podcasting process and simplify your workflow. Say goodbye to the stress of managing multiple tasks and deadlines, and hello to a more efficient and productive podcasting experience. And it doesn't just stop there. Podtask also offers AI-based marketing tools that give your podcast a competitive edge. As a fellow podcaster, I know from experience how important it is to have a reliable and efficient tool like Podtask to keep you on track. It helps save me so much time in post-production, which allows me to focus on what really matters, creating great content for my listeners. So if you're ready to take your podcast to the next level, Head over to podcast.com and sign up for a free forever plan and get started today.
Okay. Now, the people that you work with, I know at least for me, when I got into it, it was completely something new. It was something far different from my normal line of work, right? Which is in IT consulting. So, while a lot of those kind of skills help play out with what I'm doing now in podcasting, talk to me a little bit about your own process when you mentioned, you kind of got into broadcasting first, which I'm sure helped as you kind of then went into podcasting, but even talk about, people that you work with, just that evolution from going from idea, concept to starting to formulate a game plan, identify a podcast premise and getting started and kind of the evolution, even just once you're started, maybe year one.
Great question. So I'll take you back to 2012 is when it started. I had my friend who was a business partner for that venture at the time. We just had good chemistry. It was good chemistry, and we talked mostly veteran issues and military issues. That was kind of our niche target at that time. It was something easy because we were both vets. We served together, and that was kind of our primary focus. And I learned a lot from just doing that side of it. And then in 2015, when I switched over and rebranded and became Heroes Media Group and opening it up to the different perspectives of things, more and more people. I had sports shows. We had shows that were women's issues, veteran issues. I mean, you name it, we had it. The only thing we wouldn't allow were porn or any type of adult. That type of content was the only thing that we didn't work with. And it grew from there. And what I had learned was, okay, here's the idea of I wanted to create a large company where people could come, it'd be affordable, and just do something different that was spread positivity. I mean,
yeah.
Part of it was the production side of it. The other part of it was let's share some news that are more positive. I'm the type of person that, mainstream media, today is full of negativity and the propaganda, and I won't get on that soapbox, but you think of it how you want. There's a lot of positive stories that are happening in the world today, and we're not hearing about it. And I had a business person I was talking to. He was a potential investor, and he said, positivity isn't sexy. It doesn't sell. And I graciously and kindly said, I appreciate your time. This isn't going to work. And he was willing to give me, money to invest in the company to grow it. And I walked away from it because I didn't want his negative influence to affect what we were trying to ultimately grow.
Yeah, totally.
And it was one of those, it wasn't matched. So then it was kind of like, oh, so you're saying positivity doesn't sell. I'm going to change people's minds. I'm crazy enough to think that, I know we didn't get to where we're at in the world today overnight. It's going to take time. So we're going to start feeding people just little tidbits of positivity. And then eventually 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, long after I'm gone, this is still going to be around and it's going to be sharing positive stories. That's
and I definitely want to stay here with this because I love that you're bringing this up. Positivity doesn't sell, right?
Yeah.
And, I'll play devil's advocate. If your whole goal is clickbait and to generate, clicks and, saying things that are salacious, go Joe Rogan style and just say things for, even if you don't believe in them, just to get, clicks and people sharing those, yeah, right. I mean, positivity doesn't sell if that's your angle and that's what you're after. But, I think a lot of people that are getting into podcasting because of passion and purpose and they want to make an impact. Yeah. And, so that's going to sell. For somebody to say there's not an audience of people that love the positivity angle and love to spread that message, I mean, that's outrageous. So I wanted to ask you, where does that positivity and that drive to share that with others, where does that come from in you?
Ooh, wow, great question. I would say I think it's just having had enough of what's going on in the world, and pick a topic. It doesn't matter. It's, people want to feel like the woe is me, and this doesn't affect me, and they're, wow, what difference does it make? I can't change that. Well, you can, and it starts with your own personal mindset. And when people start realizing that your mind is a powerful thing, I tell people, I'm not the sharpest tool. I joke around. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not the dullest one either, though. You know what I mean? I was in high school, it was a D will get you your degree type attitude, where it was just kind of like, it's like, that's horrible. It's absolutely a horrible mindset to have, but it got me through, and I learned a lot of life lessons from it. And it's one of those things where you can have anything you want in life, and people are like, oh, that's not realistic. Okay, if that's your mindset, then that's what you're going to get. You've seen the Napoleon Hill books and all that other stuff that's out there. There's some truth behind that. Like if the people want to say, follow the science. Okay, well, let's look at the science. Our body is producing, radio waves that are sent out, or we're like an antenna. And if you're putting out positive things in the universe, then what's that going to attract? And it may seem foolish, but it's easy to I don't want to say convince people. I like to tell people, think for yourself. The stuff that I do another show every Friday morning. It's the weekly wrap up, and I talk about current events. And I'll take events that aren't very positive. But I also tell people, don't believe everything that I'm telling you. Here's some information that I read. Go look it up. There's a lost art in the world today called critical thinking. We've become such a lazy society that, like, oh, I saw it on Oprah, so it must be true, or I saw it on this program, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, it's probably not, So let's look into it. And I think, again, to make a long answer longer, is just I wanted people to start thinking for themselves and realizing that everything that you read and see is not necessarily true. Let's get back into your core beliefs and be the person that you're meant to be. And you have to start with your mindset. If you want something, good. Believe that you can have it, and then work towards it. Don't just believe it and then sit there and, okay, well, nothing's happening. Well, get off your butt and do something about it,
I fundamentally agree with that. I think it was episode 2 here on Beyond the Microphone with I think the guest episode 2 was Crystal Renee, if I'm not mistaken, and we talked about the power of manifestation. And I mean, it is absolutely a thing. Even if you just look at it from the perspective of when you spread positivity, who are you going to attract?
Right.
People that love that message, and that's what they believe in as well. So, right. I mean, there's the power, the magnetic power of manifestation and mindset right there. And, you talked about frequency and just kind of, I believe in that, and I'm totally going to botch the name right now. I think it's Abraham Hicks, actually, is a public speaker. That's her name. And she kind of talks about this idea of frequency where, when you are putting yourself in a positive mindset and you're kind of emanating, well, even if you're not, like, whatever you're emanating, you're generating a frequency, a vibration, right? And when that vibration is tapped into, like, some sort of, like, and here's probably going to get a little woo-woo, but I believe in this because I've actually experienced it. But when you're putting yourself on a vibration that your higher self is aligned with and that your higher self wants for you, that is when you are going to tap into the magic of manifestation. Yes. And things will happen and you'll be like, that's crazy. Oh my God, like, that's the most random thing that ever happened. But I could look at the series of events that led that to happen, and I think it's because I put myself on this kind of wavelength of thinking. And so anyway, I firm believer in that. And there's a lot of speakers that talk on that subject, and I'm way into that. So,
Adam, if I can add one more thing real quick. We only get one life here, right? How do you want to live it?
yeah,
Do you want to wake up every morning and just be you have a choice. When you wake up every morning, you have two options. You can be pissed off at the world, or you could choose to be positive and be productive. Now, that's not to say that we live in a perfect world. Stuff's going to happen. And you may not be able to control that, but what you can control is your reaction to those things that do happen. So you have a choice, right? And for you, believers out there, I believe in God. So for me, this is what it works. It may not work for everybody. For on a personal level, it works for me. God gave us free will, right? So I'm going to choose to be positive, regardless of what happens. I'm going to find the positive to it because I know that'll take me to the next step to where I want to go. It's that simple.
Those are magical words, and I love that you're a believer in that. So that's fantastic. So let's do this. Let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Let's get back into a little bit about the ins and outs of podcasting that I think, for people listening that are just trying to put it all together and get their shows off the ground, like some tidbits that could be useful there. So, going from like concept to reality, like, how do you coach your clients when it comes to putting a podcast premise together, when it comes to like figuring out what equipment they might need, platforms to record on, software to edit on, that sort of thing? Like how do you coach your clients through that?
So first off, I tell people you have an idea for a show. Everybody does. Great. I want you to write down 10 topics that you're going to talk about and leave a room between each topic for subcategories in that. When you have that, then we go to the next step. And usually I'll either, one of two things will happen. I'll hear from it'll take them about a week, and then I'll get a second email for a follow-up call, or I don't hear from them again. Which tells me, okay, you're not serious about it. That's fine. Great. Perfect. Once they hit that next step, okay, how do you talk about, I don't have a budget for this. So, what am I going to do? I only have, $200. Great. You have a cell phone, you got some earbuds. Maybe you start off with that. Not the best audio, but it's cost effective and it's something that works. Zoom, Skype, there's Riverside, the one that we're on right now. There's cost effective ways to record it. And it really depends on what's your goal. Are you wanting audio and video? Well, I just want audio. Okay, well, that was my mindset, but I realized the importance of video moving forward nowadays. So I'll use Zoom as an example. Not the best platform. I don't like their audio on it, but it allows them to go interaction with this, and you can get it fairly cheap. Or find another platform that you're comfortable with. What was the other one? It was editing, like post-production type stuff. I'm a big proponent of the Adobe products. That's not how I started, but here's something that's free. I started off way back in the day with Audacity. Mm-hmm. That was a great program. It was free. I used that for the longest time, and then I'm a Mac guy. Don't judge me, people, but I'm a Mac guy. So I used GarageBand once I learned how to use GarageBand because it came with the program. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I graduated into the Adobe products, and I use those because they work for me. So I tend to kind of push that direction, and I'm not getting paid by Adobe or anything like that to say that. So those are kind of the things that I tell people if you're starting off, and it really depends on your different levels. Hey, I've been doing it for a while. I want to update it. This microphone, this wasn't a cheap one, but it took me 10 years to get this microphone. Mm-hmm. This is the RE one. This is the $500 mic. I wouldn't tell somebody that's starting off to go buy this microphone. Like, let's get a couple of episodes under your belt and let's see how you want to progress, and then go from there. You can have a nice setup for under $500 that gets you started. And if you're serious about it, then you start saving that money. And if you're getting more and more serious, then you slowly build onto that. I wouldn't sleep good at night if I told somebody, you're going to need $1,600. Go get a board, go get the best microphones that you can get, and have at it. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I'm the guy that you're going to call back because I'm at least honest with you. I saved you a bunch of money to get started, and you're going to realize hey, I'm 7 episodes in, this isn't my thing, or I'm 7 episodes in, I can grow this, let's do this. Okay, now we're going to the next step.
Yeah, that's a completely sound approach, and I love that. Yeah, and everybody, kind of gets into it with a lot of excitement, but as you said, like, record several episodes, like, go through the motion of what it feels like, and if this is the right thing for you. It may not be the right thing for you, and that's not a terrible thing, and you took a stab at it. So, like, right. But once you kind of feel like you get into a groove with it and you feel, pretty confident, and, there's going to be ebbs and flows with that confidence. Like, it
right.
takes a fair amount of emotional courage to kind of, put yourself in a situation to have, some vulnerable conversations from time to time. But
and especially if you're interviewing somebody else too, if you've never really done that before or whatnot, that, the biggest thing I tell people is, I love this even today. Like, people get nervous, like, oh, I've never done an interview before. Great. Have you ever sat down, had coffee, or had a beer, or sat at a bar with somebody and just start talking with them? We're like, well, yeah, great. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, don't overthink it.
We're just recording. Like, have fun with this. Like, this is, be natural. Don't be like, oh, relax, have fun. That's what this is, a fun thing to do. And I think as hosts ourselves, it's a privilege for us to do stuff like this. I think we're the luckiest people around because we get to do this for a living.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
It's pretty cool.
Totally. All right. So finally, as we wrap here, and I ask everybody this same question, so I'm gonna leave it here with you. What discoveries have you made about yourself through the podcasting experience?
Great question. Discoveries that I've made about myself. Early on, I had suffered from imposter syndrome. It was like, why would anybody want to listen to me? And that took me, and I'd be lying to you if I said I've overcome that, even today. And mind you, I've been in the business for over a decade. It still happens every now and then. But I think one of the things is that, biggest thing I've learned is that I can sit down, I can interview anybody. And I've had the privilege of interviewing movie stars to, just random people off the street. And it's fun every single time. I've never thought in a million years, had you asked me a decade ago if I ever saw myself doing this for a living, I would have laughed at you. So I've learned that this is something that I'm good at, and it's given me purpose in, like, what I call my second chapter of life. I just turned 45 recently. My son's in college now, so now that he's kind of off doing his own thing, I have to grow up. And I realized that this chapter of my life, I never would have thought this would have been cool, or something I would have done or even considered. And one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Beautifully spoken. Thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit and to have you here today. So thanks for coming on.
Adam, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You got it. Adam Baruh is a highly accomplished and seasoned entrepreneur, renowned for his exceptional leadership skills and extensive expertise in various industries. As the founder of Heroes Media Group, HMG Beverage, and co-founder of JB Audio Clothiers, he has made a significant impact on the entrepreneurial landscape, successfully building and managing multiple ventures with exceptional finesse. His visionary leadership has been instrumental in the success of Heroes Media Group, a leading platform that amplifies the voices of inspiring individuals, including veterans, first responders, and community leaders. This platform serves as a powerful catalyst for positive change and provides a voice to those who deserve recognition and appreciation. Beyond the Microphone is sponsored by Podtask. Whether you're just starting out in podcasting or you've been at this a while and are looking to save time so you can create amazing content for your listeners, go check out Podtask, a podcast management and marketing platform designed by podcasters for podcasters. With Podtask's automated workflow and AI-based marketing tools, you'll save time and sanity and be better equipped to grow your podcasts. If you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening, as well as on our YouTube channel. You can find links to all of these in our episode show notes. If you're looking to get help and guidance in your own podcasting journey, I'd love to help you find direction and work with you on strategy so that your passion and purpose can continue to manifest amazing content for your listeners. please reach out to me through www.eiqmediallc.com so that we can take your passion and purpose in podcasting to the next level. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Microphone.
Beyond the Microphone is produced and distributed by EIQ Media Group, LLC. Elevate your emotional IQ with podcasts and content focused on entrepreneurship, overcoming adversity, stories of emotional courage, women's health, aging, and more.